Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. Former NFL GM and ESPN analyst. Hold on. Matter of fact, I'll let you listen to it real quick. Fair USAC, fair USAC.
The world needed a safer trampoline. Dr. Keith Alexander, inventor of the spring-free trampoline, wanted to bring the joy of trampolining to
Little
his daughter.
advertisement
His
for
wife
you.
said they were too dangerous, so he invented his own. Spring-free trampoline is the world's safest trampoline, with no springs or hard edges. Now, parents can have peace of mind that their kids are outside jumping safely. To learn more, visit springfreetrampoline.com.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 1 in every 5 children killed in traffic crashes in the U.S. was a pedestrian. That's why 3M is working alongside local governments and NGOs to help improve crosswalk visibility and traffic markings in school zones. And NGOs to apply to life.
It is an honor. I'll say it's an honor because I love watching him on ESPN. I love to hear what he has to say. Mike
My
Tannenbaum,
bad, y'all. Here
former
it
general
is right
manager
here.
in the NFL, nice enough to join us here this afternoon. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good. How was your 1 year here?
It was great.
Fair
I really
USAC,
enjoyed it.
fair USAC.
And Cleveland loved their Browns and got a chance to work with, I think it was like 8 future GMs and 6 head coaches, and it was a to be part of the staff.
Maybe, I mean, I know ESPN did the thing out of it, but maybe one of the greatest staffs in NFL history. Is that fair to say? And you could say it if you were part of it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, when you think about guys that came through there like Nick Saban and Kirk Ferentz and Mike Lombardi, Scott Pioli, Ozzie Newsome, Eric Mangini, George Kokinis, Jim Schwartz, amongst others, that's pretty darn good.
It's amazing. That's a Hall of Fame right there. That's awesome. All right, Mike, we're getting ready for the draft here. It's super odd because, I mean, we're 44. We got Deshaun Watson, but we're going to be sitting watching everybody else on Thursday night. What's it like when you are gearing up for a draft and you're looking at the second round and you got to wait? I mean, it's all so reactionary, and it's really reactionary when you're sitting at 44.
Unexpected things could happen. I was probably part of the oddest thing in the history of the draft, which was in 2016 running the Dolphins. We had a good left tackle in Brandon Albert, and the number 1 player on our board was Laramie Tunsil. And an unfortunate video came out of Laramie right around the start of the draft, and somehow he's sitting there at 13, and we turned in the card and got an all-rookie offensive lineman without ever trading up. So you just never know what's going to happen. I know Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, they're very thoughtful, methodical guys, and they'll certainly be prepared when their turn is called.
Mike, what'd you think when the Browns acquired Deshaun Watson? Were you surprised?
Well, I think you could bifurcate the discussion. Obviously, off the field, it's an extraordinarily complicated situation. There's still, a number of pending lawsuits, and there could be a number of, victims, and, there's something that we have to recognize and take into account. And from a football standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. You look at the AFC, I've been on the record, Baker Mayfield happens to be a good person. I just think by NFL standards, he's slow, he's short, and I think it's going to be really hard for him to lead a team, especially in the AFC, to a championship.
Mike, can you talk about the Browns situation with him right now? I mean, it's like, what is his value? And if you're the Browns, don't you have to be methodical about what you're going to do? Because right now, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of value, and I think you're pretty much waiting for another quarterback to get hurt. Well, what's it like to be in Andrew's seat on this?
Yeah, I think really what you're trying to do is cut your losses. This is, to me, clearly about economics. It's not what you think the market is. It's what the 31 other teams are telling you, which is, there's just not a big market, and you just sit there and you hope that somehow Carolina or Seattle or, just don't come out of this thing with a starting quarterback. And, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to factor in. But if I'm them, I have to be prepared to eat, upwards of $18 million because every day that goes by, their ability to trade him diminishes.
Mike, would you potentially
trade Baker with one of your draft picks to somebody just to get him off your books?
Absolutely. And the irony is the Browns did that a number of years ago, if you remember, with Brock Osweiler.
Right.
So, how much is a third-round pick worth, right? How much is a second-round pick? Would you trade Baker Mayfield in a 2? I don't think that's out of the question. So, the irony of this conversation is, does the Brock Osweiler precedent come back, on the other end of it?
Again, if you're sitting there at 44, I mean, how? I don't know how. You got to stay patient and you got to figure it out too, and also and try to evaluate what's going on. I mean, tell me what draft night is like for you when you're sitting in that position.
Well, here's what you got to think of. Like, ordinarily you would say, like, is there a player in the first round that we would consider trading next year's number 1 pick to package to go up and get? But obviously they don't have one of those either. So, unless you're trading Myles Garrett, like, there's just really no conceivable way you're going to be in the first round over the next couple of years, which is obviously okay because you're coming out of this thing with a franchise quarterback. So there's really not much you can do. You just sit there and patient. The one thing, again, like you're talking about 44, the realistic conversations are, hey, if player X is there at 35, 36, 37, and it's within striking distance, what's the price we're comfortable paying to go up and get that player? So that really is the realistic discussion you're having. You're looking at 2 to 3 players that you think could come in and start. Maybe that's an offensive lineman in their case. Cleveland, to their credit, has a pretty well-balanced roster, so I'm hard-pressed to think that they're going to give up additional draft capital, but those really are the discussions you would be having.
Mike, people say this is a very deep wide receiver draft. Is that overstated? Do we feel like we say that every single year about a certain position? Because the Browns obviously need another wide receiver.
I don't think it's overstated, and I think we're going to continue to say that because the way college football is being played, as long as we see, teams playing 3 and 4 wide receivers, I don't think that's something that it makes a lot of sense to me. So some receivers are going to get paid a lot of money like we've seen this offseason, but I think over time, when you can integrate a young, talented, inexpensive player, that's going to make teams think about, do we need to pay a receiver, top money when we can keep drafting one?
Like, what do you think of the Browns right now? I mean, and there was another story that came out, and this circling back on the Baker Mayfield stuff, that like teams are like not wanting to negotiate with the Browns at all because of how much money that Jimmy has them spent on him, and kind of redefining what guaranteed money. What do you think of the state of the team right now and where they are?
Well, look, if Deshaun Watson is eligible for 17 games, they have a meaningful chance to make a lot of noise this year. Do I think teams are disappointed by the structure of his contract? Of course they are. Now, I guess the interesting part of that discussion is, does Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, do they have similar contract structures or not? So is it the start of a new trend or is it aberrational? We'll find out. But teams will deal with the Browns when it's in their interest. I mean, 31 other teams are always going to act selfishly and in their respective best interest. So that to me is just, background noise. So I think it's fascinating, though, to see how impactful Deshaun's contract is in the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm curious, Mike. I mean, if you were sitting there, how often does it happen when when you're in those negotiations, they're like, well, that guy's getting that much guaranteed money. And is that everybody now talking to every general manager, every agent saying, well, look, if Watson gets that much guaranteed money, I mean, my guy's almost as good. Is that reality or is that just talk radio?
Yeah, no, if we were representing Joe Burrow, we're going to be hard pressed to take 5 cents less than Deshaun Watson in average per year in structure. If I was Lamar Jackson representing myself, but it's not talk radio. I'm walking into Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, and saying, hey, look, guys, I am not going to ask for a nickel more than what Deshaun Watson gets, but let's be very clear, I'm not taking a nickel less either.
Mike, I did want to ask you about the Niners situation. 2 things there. Deebo Samuel asking for a trade. What do you think happens there? And also, what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I would keep them.
Keep both of them?
I'm hard-pressed to understand. Yeah, they Super Bowl a couple of years ago. If Jarsky Tark catches that interception in the championship game, they're back in the Super Bowl. I'm hard-pressed to understand why you would trade Jimmy Garoppolo and therefore I would keep Deebo Samuel. I mentioned that on ESPN the other day. I see those two as a package, but I'm hard-pressed to understand why they're better trading Jimmy Garoppolo.
I agree. Yeah. What do you think of the quarterbacks in this draft? I mean, there have been years where we've thought, oh, these 5 guys are going, and I'm not really quite sure how to read what we're seeing with the guys coming out this year. What's your read on the quarterback class coming out?
I don't think any of them are, I like Kenny Pickett. I think he has a chance to be Matt Schaub, a really good player. Malik Willis is super intriguing, but I think he's at least a year away. He's 6'1". I don't like short quarterbacks because I don't like exceptions. There's Russell Wilson, there's Drew Brees, but give me the 30 other guys that look like Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger and, built for the rigors of an NFL season. So maybe Matt Corral, but I think he's more of a second rounder.
What are you doing on draft night? What do you got going on ESPN? What are you doing?
Well, I'm privileged to be the main analyst on the national ESPN radio broadcast. So hopefully you have your TVs on and your volume down and you're listening to our thoughtful discussion.
Outstanding. Is it fun to be on the outside looking in sometimes, or would you rather be on the inside out?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. It's a real privilege to have the seat I have. Look, I've been fortunate, been part of teams for 22 years, and I got to tell you, my preparation, do what I do now, isn't much different. Obviously, I don't have access to some of the character and medical parts, nor candidly should I. But, watching the tape, putting a board together, it's still a lot of fun and feel like I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I do.
Let me ask you just one more quick one. Where do you think the Browns fit in the AFC? Because I think it's super enigma based on who's playing quarterback.
Yeah, I think there's no team that has a more disparate outcome. If I was the Browns, what keeps me up at night is what happened in 2010, which is Ben Roethlisberger initially got a 6-game suspension, and there was never any criminal accusations, that were filed against him. So if and when the suspension comes down, it could dramatically impact what we're looking at. If Deshaun Watson plays 17 games, I'm hard-pressed to think that they can't compete. Now, look, with that said, this conference to me is historically tough.
Sounds good. Mike, we're looking forward to your coverage on draft night, and thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Take
Mike.
care.
The world needed a safer trampoline. Dr. Keith Alexander, inventor of the spring-free trampoline, wanted to bring the joy of trampolining to his daughter. His wife said they were too dangerous, so he invented his own. Spring-free trampoline is the world's safest trampoline, with no springs or hard edges. Now, parents can have peace of mind that their kids are outside jumping safely. To learn more, visit springfreetrampoline.com.
So that was the interview and everything. Basically, if Deshaun Watson is healthy, good to go, then they're good, they're fine. So if he's suspended, that's why I don't have the Browns in the top 5. I think they'll probably be in the top 10. But once Deshaun Watson comes back, they'll take off. But Let me know in the comment section what you thought about that. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share this. Hit that notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you guys love what you hear, you can go to my description box, hit that link to my Cash App, and you can donate whatever your heart's desire. The super chat button works as well as the super thanks. So thank you guys, man, for your listening, and we out. Deezy.